Luka was awesome on both ends. Dallas steals one. The Minnesota Timberwolves go up 2-0. And Indiana takes one in Milwaukee. We're talking about a big night in the playoffs here on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we got you covered every day here in the Locked On NBA podcast. On Wednesdays, we're your guys. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast on Twitter at NOLA Jake. Look, it wasn't as good as Monday night, the games that were there, but we got road wins finally. We finally got some road wins in the playoffs here. That's just as good.
Just as good. We did get one kind of thriller, but still a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I would have liked to have podcast. I'd be honest with you, watching the end of the Knicks and the Nuggets games, I was a little jealous that we didn't get the podcast after that game, but this is still a great night. It's still a great night in the NBA. Playoff times are amazing. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $100, $150. Don't let me shortchange you. $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We'll save the Pacers and the Bucks for the third segment. We'll get to the Suns in the second set, the Timberwolves going up 2-0. But let's just start with the late game. Luka Doncic, amazing. Getting it done on both ends, really. But 32 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, just an overall amazing game. Clutch shots galore. Playing good defense. Luka Doncic is playing good defense.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do this? Let's just start off. We're going to play real or fake in every segment today because we normally do our real or fake.
Love it.
We're going to do it every segment.
This is we ramp it up too in the playoffs.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Real or fake, Jake Madison? The Clippers were targeting the wrong star in this game.
It is very real. Luka Doncic, we'll talk about his offense in a minute, but stout on the defensive end here. You saw the Clippers trying to hunt him late in the fourth quarter, and that didn't work. That didn't work at all as their offense looked just stuck in the mud and looked absolutely terrible. It was just a slog for them because they couldn't get past Luka. Now, this speaks to what you're seeing from the referees in the NBA right now in the postseason. They're allowing a lot of physicality, and you had Luka doing that, using his hands. It looked like that would be called a foul during the regular season, but not right now. They're allowing him to do it. Credit him for realizing how the refs have been calling games, and they've kind of been consistent across multiple games now and taking advantage of that. If you look at it, it's hindsight, right? But the Clippers should have been hunting Kyrie Irving the whole game.
I mean, I think that's just a sound strategy anyway.
Yeah, probably.
I get that you probably want to target Luka because he is the head of the snake. Like Kyrie is option number 2. And because Luka can just do so many ridiculous things with his passing, you want to make him tired and you want to go at him. And even if he's playing decent defense, you want to bang him in the post. You want to put a shoulder into his body. You want to get him as tired as possible. I understand all of that. But when it's not working and you have to put points up on the board, that's where you have to say, okay, there's one side of the strategy here. There's another side of, hey, like there were 2, I think, scoreless stretches for the Clippers of 4 minutes plus in this game. That's just, you can't have 2 of those and expect to survive. Even on your own home court. The Clippers, they play slow. They play methodical, especially with Kawhi back. Kawhi didn't look his best.
He was almost hurting them at times, I thought, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, 15 points, 7 of 17 shooting. He missed all 5 of his 3-pointers. He was a -8. It's the team worst, -8 in that game. You know who had the best plus minus, the only positive plus minus for the Clippers?
I know because I'm looking at the box score, but I could have told you just from watching, and that was Russ because he was impactful off the bench and amped up their pace. You talked about how they're slow. When he was out there, he was just giving them a jolt of energy they needed.
Yeah, and so when you play that that slow and you're not winning the possession battle uh, by enough, you need to find ways to get the easy baskets. You need to find ways to get those buckets, and so yeah, targeting the wrong guy for sure. But let's give credit where credit is due. Kyrie and Luka combining for 55 points, a big game from PJ Washington. They got just great contributions across the board. They turned the ball over 14 times and they still were able to overcome that, mostly because Luka is magic.
He is, right? Like, he didn't even have a great shooting night. He was 11 for 26. And you just watch him out there. And this is something that I've been talking about a lot on my show all season, is like, win your minutes, just be impactful. I care less about some of the raw stats as long as you're just doing the right things. And I'll mention this when we talk about the next game, when we get into Anthony Edwards a little bit too, because he had a bad shooting night. But when you look at his play and when you just kind of see his feel on the game, the way he imprints himself on it, Luka is good. We know that, right? That's not breaking news here on Locked On NBA, no. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the best analysis that you can get, but it's so much more than just the shooting and the scoring. It's just at the way he can manipulate the defense, right? That shot that he hit, I think it was over James Harden, that 3 that he hit late in that game where he just, I don't even know how you do that. Like, so that's not a good shot unless it's Luka in clutch situations doing it.
It's Luka. I don't think he has ever missed going to his left in the clutch. And I say that as a Celtics guy. He has hit, I think, 3 different buzzer beater game winning shots going to his left from 3, and almost like flinging them and falling down and their money. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible
what he can do. He loves going to his left and shooting. It's almost like it's definitely backwards, because when you're a right-handed shooter, going to your left should be uncomfortable. And I don't know, maybe it's like a European conversion rate thing. It just flips it around. Was left and hitting those shots. One of the most kind of like mind-boggling, amazing things that a player can do, just with doesn't matter how many guys are on him. He's hit it over 2-3 guys. It doesn't matter how far he's fading. That's his favorite shot.
No, it's incredible, right? Like, this is what he does, and it's super impressive. And he just does this sort of thing regularly. And to truly appreciate him, you need to just watch what he does, right? A couple of notes in this one, though. You saw Daniel Gafford leave the game early with an injury, did come back, I think. And then Tim Hardaway ended up leaving with an ankle sprain as well. It's worth noting we'll talk about some injuries in the next one too, because I do think these are going to be big. Those are guys they do really need, and Gafford in particular has been really good for them. But when you can get solid minutes from Derek Lively II, right? And this was a game after game 1 where Zubac played really well, did not play well in this game, and that was a supposed advantage for the Clippers going into it, I thought. To see them kind of negate him there, even with Gafford out, man, just... it's kind of surprising to me when you look at how poorly the Clippers offense looked at times that they were in this one late. I mean, it was a 96-93 score. They weren't exactly lighting it up, let's say, but even still, the fact that it was a 3-point game that late was shocking, or that they had the lead that late even too.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk after game 1 about how Zubac set a tone. He was very physical. He kind of buried his shoulder into Gafford early on, and but after that, Dallas was playing on their heels, and Zubac had a really big game 1 for them to recover and kind of learn that lesson and be able to control him. He got 12 shots. it's kind of the shot distribution when Zubac is getting 12 shots, Harden 14, Paul George 14, Kawhi 17. I mean, that's a big chunk of shots for a guy shooting 5 of 12. That right there is a big issue for them. I mean, you only put up 93 points. So they shot 37% from the field. They shot 26.5% from three. Just an overall horrible shooting night at home.
Just terrible.
Now they have to go on the road. The Dallas Mavericks now one of 2 road teams to finally win. No road wins coming into this night, and we got 2. Dallas was the second one.
Yeah, it just might come down to like how Kawhi Leonard plays. Like he was actively holding him back. He looked slow. He didn't look great. If he can find his legs, maybe that's going to really kind of change things because this was a close game. But that's a big win for the Mavericks because road wins have been tough to come by.
That's right. Series doesn't start until the road team wins a game, and now home court advantage flips. This one. It has 7-game series written all over it.
Yeah, it feels like it.
So this is, and it's just a very slow plotting. This is a heavyweight slugfest. A little bit more up and down for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and definitely more up and down later on for the Indiana Pacers. The Timberwolves go up 2-0, and we'll talk about that coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. Mother's Day is here. It's right like around the corner. And if you're like me, it's kind of taking you by a little bit by surprise. Like, oh, right, it's happening. I've been busy. It's the playoffs, So I'm going to use DoorDash because I know I can surprise my mom with whatever she wants. If flowers, does she want candy? Is she a tech person? My mom's not a tech person, but your mom might be, and you can get all kinds of stuff. You can order from the flower shop, a convenience store, grocery, and it's all going to show up at the door, courtesy of DoorDash. Whatever she's into, you can make her smile. And isn't that what Mother's Day is all about? You want to make her smile. And right now, 0 delivery fees, reduced service fees on eligible orders from DashPass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. There are other fees, including service fee that apply, but terms do apply to this deal. But it's still, if you want to get 50% off your next order, up to $15, you can get that on DoorDash. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order. It's right now. You got to use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Get all of these cool things delivered to your mom's door with DoorDash. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, the title of this show. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Today's show is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. You need to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards all day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I'm finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on the classic Monopoly that you can play anywhere, anytime. You can explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. You can charge rent on iconic properties, charge your friends rent on these iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly, or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists or taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. That just sounds super cool. My favorite part is the leaderboards, because I'm a competitive dude, where you can see who is a Monopoly tycoon and who has gone bankrupt. So get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store and Google Play. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports Today. It's streaming 24/7 on YouTube. It's on the Amazon free Fire TV channels app, and it's there all day, every day. Forget all of the fake argument. Forget all the fake top real sports talk like Jake and I.
Like
real
us.
Real talk. 24/7, all the big stories. This show's on there. Our individual shows show up on there. All the big shows show up on there because you want sports talk. That's the bottom line. Well, one of the big topics here is the Minnesota Timberwolves taking a 2-0 lead, 105-93, thanks to a monster late game surge. They outscore the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns, that's who
I was going to jump in and save you there.
55-42 in the second half. They went on a big run there to close the game. The Suns lose Grayson Allen. They get like big performances from Eric Gordon. They got a great performance from Drew Eubanks, but not enough to contain a starting five from the Minnesota Timberwolves that had a great night, led by Jaden McDaniels.
That's what we expected to say on here.
They have KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels, right, Anthony Edwards?
It's this one. I'm worried about the Suns. Like, I'm just worried about the Suns here. Now, I think
you're worried about the Suns?
The Suns
sounds
right?
like time. Sounds like time to play our favorite game.
That was good.
Real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Jake, real or fake? The Suns are cooked.
Yeah, they're cooked. They're cooked. If they lose Grayson Allen, I don't think people realize how big that's going to be. He's been one of their best players this season in a year of a lot of up and downs and unavailability from some of their star players, and he's been one of the best three-point shooters in the league. They're already very thin when it comes to depth. He had already had a right ankle injury going into this one, landed on, I forget whose foot, rolled it looking pretty bad, did not return in this game, went immediately to the locker room, didn't look like he could put weight on it. Maybe he plays, maybe not, but I don't know if it really matters. You know, you mentioned they got a good game from Eric Gordon. It was 15 points. They got 3 threes from him. That was good. You mentioned they got a good game from Drew Eubanks, right? Like 8 points. Not like I'm joking, but like if that's a good game for those guys, and I agree with you, it is. Those are good performances from them. Like you need more than that. You need more than that when you're going up against a Timberwolves team where Anthony Edwards shot very poorly, right? We know how good Ant is, but he had 15 points on 3 of 12 shooting. But he made his presence felt out there. The way that he was the focal point of that defense, passing the ball, creating wide open looks for guys like Jaden McDaniels, you know, and others. He had 8 assists in this game. And when you look at some of the scoring, he was very much the engine for that. And if you don't have things that can match that, and it doesn't feel like the Suns do right now, yeah, Suns feel cooked.
The Suns definitely feel cooked. You're right. The Grayson Allen injury is huge. But when the Suns can't count on their bench. So when you get decent performances out of your bench and you end up getting 14 points from Bradley Beal, you know, Kevin Durant, look, man, 18 points. You gotta score more than 18 points. Like Kevin Durant, you're the focal point, man. I mean, Book 20 points, but Book was a minus 24, and he only took 13 shots, 6 of 13, 1 of 6 from 3. Like that. This I understand that they haven't quite figured it out, and they got Bradley Beal. They never had enough time to put all of this together, and they never really established that Bradley Beal has to be the third option. He has to understand that he's number 3, and by going there, you have accepted that KD has to be putting up 25 to 30. Devin Booker has to be putting up 25 to 30, and Beal has to be there to support that. When you're not getting that, what do they combine for? 20, 30, 40, 52 points from between the 3 of them. That's just not going to get it done for the Phoenix Suns. And losing Grayson Allen just adds an element on top of that if he's out for an extended period of time, I don't know that they come back from this, which makes this an extraordinarily disappointing season in Phoenix. And I think it opens up a lot of questions, which we can answer another time. Let's give the Minnesota Timberwolves their credit, their due.
Yeah. their star players played well. That's what's going to win you this series, right? You know, you mentioned the benches there. Phoenix had more bench points by 11, and it didn't matter because you're not getting enough from your star players. And while they're all talented, there's nothing there to make me think that like they're going to do this. You even saw Devin Booker and Bradley Beal getting into it a little bit with Frank Vogel, their head coach, late in this game. Some of the frustrations were boiling over. You also had the Timberwolves, who went through kind of a lot of like internal turmoil last year, it feels like, kind of look united against this team. They were trash talking them a lot, right? In some way, this is maybe bringing the Minnesota Timberwolves a little bit closer together. And if you're Phoenix, you don't want to do that, right? Like everyone hates Rudy Gobert. Everyone in the entire league hates Rudy Gobert, probably including like all of his teammates, right? There's literally an article on one of the, I don't remember where I saw floating around today. Right? Like talking about that, right? He was voted the most overrated player, the least liked player. Right? Like again, something like that.
Again, not the first time.
Again.
Like no, 3 years in a row.
Everyone hates Rudy Gobert. We all already know this. Except even the Timberwolves hated him last year, right? Him and Towns were fighting at one point at the end of last season. I think it was against the Pelicans. They look like best buddies tonight. They look like best buddies in this game. And if you're bringing those two people together, because everyone hates the Suns, right? Everyone hates Rudy Gobert. Everyone hates the Phoenix Suns here. That ain't good for you, man. Like, that's a problem, right? You're going to give this team a big morale boost, right? You didn't get a very good Karl Anthony Towns game in this one. He really struggled and was trying way too hard in the beginning of this one. And so Rudy Gobert was like, fine, I'll do a lot of the scoring. I'll get to the line. Anthony Edwards didn't shoot well, still was aggressive. You had Mike Conley and his defense and just the steady offense that he brings look really good there. You just trust and feel more belief in this Timberwolves team than you do the Phoenix Suns. And it's because of that core group of guys.
Well, Karl Anthony Towns gets into foul trouble early on. He was left in the game. He picked up, I think, a second or third foul there, and he has to come out. Yeah. And so that's where McDaniels steps in and goes 10 of 17 and has this amazing game. 25 points, 2 of 4 from 3. Tack on 3 assists. It's just a wonderful game from McDaniels to make up for what Karl Anthony Towns couldn't give them because he was sitting on the bench. And on top of that, you get Rudy Gobert. You know what? One of the biggest stats of the series so far, Rudy Gobert is 12 of 14 from the line, 6 of 7 in each of the first 2 games. That is huge because now you can't do hacker Rudy. You can't even use that to extend and get the to try and win a possession battle. So yeah, it's shout out to Minnesota. You got guys stepping up. The defense looks good. They had gone through trials and tribulations. I think those helped them here. They're such a young team. Edwards is 22. Karl Anthony Towns is immature, and so that makes him young. And they've had things that they've had to work through. Shout out to them for finding their footing and, taking the lessons of the past. They've had a great season, and it just might not be a fluke. Now, a lot of this has to do with the Phoenix Suns because the Suns have not had, this is just consistent throughout the course of the season. Nothing has changed in the first 2 games of the playoffs. The same issues persist, but got to give Minnesota credit for taking those lessons of the past and looking like a team that has learned some lessons.
Yeah, look, that Timberwolves defense is legit. It is very, very
Absolutely
legit. The Phoenix Suns, averaged 116 points per game in the regular season. They scored 93 in this one, right? Like that's a significant difference there. So if you have that good of a defense and you can get a little bit more from Anthony Edwards, I feel good about where they are.
The Indiana Pacers took a game in Milwaukee. We've been talking about, we played a game of real or fake that I think we both called Indiana, saying we're picking the upset.
No shock here.
We might be right. We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book because they are giving you $150 in bonus bets, no matter whether your first bet wins or loses. It's guaranteed. You just got to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. You make your first bet, boom, you win automatically. Whatever happens to the bet, you're getting $150 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. And so, hey, playoffs, NBA, NHL, both in the playoffs. Major League Baseball is in the middle of their season now. So to hop on, and there's plenty of other sports to bet on. So go check it out at FanDuel. Bet on everything, slap shots, home runs, slam dunks. It's all there. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet and win $150 in bonus bets. And use the tools that are available at FanDuel to set your limits, set your budget. They have the tools there to protect you, so you're only spending your disposable income and nothing more. Take advantage of that. Gamble responsibly at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Today's show is also brought to you by BetterHelp. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I know how well therapy can work, but only if you find the right therapist that you click with. And that's what makes BetterHelp different. So you go to betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Not only do you get 10% off your first month, you sign up, you fill out a form, you fill out answer some questions. They match you with a licensed therapist. So you don't have to drive around town, right, and find somebody that's nearby. Everything is online, so it's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. You find somebody, you start talking to that person and get whatever you need off your chest, right? This is what therapy does. So something simple, something a little more complicated, work, relationships, something more deeply rooted, family stuff, whatever. Talk to somebody at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. And if you don't click with that first therapist, go to the next one. They let you switch for free. So it doesn't matter. You can switch for free at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Keep going until you find the person you click with. And once you do, therapy becomes really, really helpful. betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. 10% off your first month there. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Indiana Pacers beat the Milwaukee Bucks 125-108. Run off a big run to break open what was kind of like a back and forth close game. And they just took advantage of, once again, the Bucks' biggest weakness, which has been their defense. In a playoffs where points have not come very easily, we just talked about, three out of the 4 teams didn't score 100 points. The Bucks put up 125. So for the third time, we're going to go play the game.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Jake, the Milwaukee Bucks sacrificed defense this season for offense, and now it is burning them.
That is totally real. How much better would this team look potentially with Drew Holiday on it than Damian Lillard right now? This is going to be a topic this offseason that we're going to talk a whole lot about. Now, admittedly, this was basically the Damian Lillard show for the Bucks, and no one else did anything offensively, right? No one else did anything offensively. You had Brook Lopez with 22 points and then a whole bunch of nothing, pretty much are just middling performances from everybody else. They had 6 players score in single digits in this game. That isn't really a way to win very many games, and most of those guys played over 10 minutes. It was basically Damian Lillard and nobody else. And we've seen that show before in Portland, and it didn't win them anything. So yeah, they should have maybe not gone all in right now on Damian Lillard, because look, if it was ever going to work, it would have worked in a game without Giannis, where he's got to carry you and it's got to be Dame time the whole game. And he got his points. He was good in this one, and they still lost.
They lost because Pascal Siakam dropped 37 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. He shot 16 of 23, 3 of 4 from 3. Just what an acquisition Siakam has been for them. A stabilizing force. Tyrese Halliburton continues to not play his best. 12 points, 4 of 10 shooting. The injuries just really kind of not derailed his season, but took a lot of the steam. I mean, this was a dude who was, you talk about like supercharged offense, and now he's just kind of been regular. But 17 points and 12 assists, he still found his way, and he hit some shots late as the Pacers were able to pull away. Miles Turner had a great performance. Andrew Nembhard dropped 20. So you got 3 guys dropping 20 plus for the Indiana Pacers. And the I think it spiraled on the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, yeah, their defense was not great. Their transition defense suffered. I think what happened was they really tried to force things, and they were 12 of 22 at the rim. And when you miss 10 shots at the rim, those basically to me might as well be turnovers, because now Milwaukee only turned the ball over 8 times for 11 points.
There are like no turnovers in this game at all.
But the missed shots at the rim essentially to me are turnovers, because you miss a layup and that guy who takes the layup that misses is all of a sudden behind the play. Either he's just his momentum takes him behind the play, or he falls out of bounds, or he complains to the ref, and you give up a 5-on-4 or a 4-on-3. You give up an advantage to a Pacers team that can take off and use that to score, and they turn around and finish with 52 points in the paint. So they were finishing, Milwaukee wasn't. And when Milwaukee was forcing things and not finishing at the rim, that plays right into the style of play that the Pacers want to play.
Yeah, look, you had a really good game from Miles Turner in this, and like it's weird, right? Because for years he was the guy that was like always on the block, and now he very well might be like untradeable, it feels like, for them. You know, it's just how the tables have turned here, right? He's a bit of a rim deterrent there. Here's the thing: when you look at this, to me, when you look at this series, right? We're talking about that Bucks defense being non-existent. Pacers just went up and put 125 on you on the road. When they get back to Indiana next game, it was going to be 160 that they're going to light him up with. If they get Halliburton just shooting a little bit better, he's dishing out the assists and is still a bit of a focal point for those defenses. But if he has a good shooting night, you're going to get solid performances from Anunoby, I believe, from Pascal Siakam in this one, right? Like, we know that that's going to happen here. But if you get all of their guys going all at once, and I trust those guys more than some of the guys on the Bucks right now, yeah, that's gonna light them up, right? Look, you're not gonna get good scoring games from Patrick Beverley, Jay Crowder. They combined for 1 of 8 in this game for 7 total points. You trust some of those guys on the Pacers a little bit more with some of the names that they have that have kind of done it all season. They're just gonna play lightning fast in Indiana, right? It's gonna be the Indy 500 in there, and they're gonna just run up points on the Milwaukee Bucks unless they get Giannis back, and that maybe then changes the way this series looks.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Giannis, and I'm so look. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks and you're looking at how this season is going,
This season's been a disaster.
I'm not rushing Giannis back for anything here. Like, if you're taking a good hard look at your team, I'm not looking at that and saying this is a championship run. I'm not risking Giannis putting the calf injury we're talking about Achilles adjacent. And if something happens to the Achilles, then you're going for it this season and screwing yourself next season. Or is it worth it in the East with the Celtics looking as good as they look? Is it worth it to put Giannis at that kind of risk now? Just get him healthy and try to figure it out next season. See if you can do something in the offseason. Like the Bucks might still win this series, but the Pacers going back home, having won game 2 and have this momentum, and that game 3 is just gonna be so wild. I don't know. I don't feel good about the Bucks.
No, no one's felt good about them all season long. And that's kind of been part of the issue, right? There's been no reason to feel good about them all season long with anything. And if they don't get this defense figured out, and this is what Doc Rivers was supposed to be brought in to do, and he stabilized them a little bit as the season went on. But not enough, right? Like you need to get some stops, and it doesn't feel like they're truly going to be able to do that here. And Indiana thrives in a game that's a shootout, just thrives in a game that's a shootout. We've seen them do this to the Bucks all season long, right? That's why we thought they maybe were going to be okay in this series. So, good luck, Milwaukee, right now. seriously, they looked like the Golden State Warriors, the Pacers did at times, right? They were making threes. They were just doing everything.
They did look good. 2 games on the slate tomorrow night. The Celtics and Miami Heat at 7. New Orleans and OKC at 9:30. So both our teams play.
Good thing our night was tonight here.
That's right. So we'll be watching basketball, and we'll let Pat the designer and Nick Angstead talk about those games tomorrow night. So on Wednesdays, it's us. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. You find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, on Twitter, X, whatever it is, at NOLA Jake.
It's always going to be Twitter to me. I'd love it if you're subscribed. Get into that YouTube page, comment, let us know what you think about these games, and share the podcast. Spread the word. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.